it is a pleasure being with you today, and you're right. Not so long ago, it must have been about 6 weeks ago, I did give a speech at the Council of Foreign Relations, which I understand is a sister company or sister institution. Both of you, I think, have as a common goal to foster ideas and dialogue to make sure that we have a more prosperous and a more secure world. And those are excellent goals and objectives which are not vastly different from the goals and the objectives of the IMF, which has to do with stability in the global economy. Now, needless to say that we have a lot to do at the moment, and I'm delighted to actually be in Europe and to address your group. This is my first occasion to speak on a European panel and on a European scene. Now, the key messages that I would like to convey to you is that at this stage, and given the economic circumstances that we are facing, countries and policymakers in those countries around the world must act now, must act boldly, and must act together. That is certainly the view of the Fund. The world is collectively suffering from a crisis of confidence in the face of deteriorating economic outlook and rising concern about the health of sovereigns and banks. All this is happening at a time when the scope for policy action is considerably narrower than what it was 2, say 3 years ago, right after the financial crisis. But it is not to say that there are no policy options. There are fewer policy options. But there is a path for recovery, and that is certainly what the Fund is seeing. Let us look at the challenges for the global economy. The bottom line is that global activity has slowed and downside risks have increased. And at the same time, the global rebalancing demand that we were all expecting for sustainable growth to take place has stalled. If we look at the key advanced economies, the necessary and expected handover from the public funding necessary post-crisis to the private sector is not taking place, or if it is taking place at a much slower pace than expected. And the fundamental problem is that weak growth and weak balance sheets, be that of government, of banks, of households, are feeding negatively on each other. And if growth continues to lose momentum, balance sheets problem will worsen, fiscal sustainability will be threatened, and the scope for policies to salvage the economy will disappear. If we look now at the emerging economies, where we all thought that salvation would come from, well, certainly their performance has been considerably better. But in some countries, growth may be too fast, and policies are needed to contain overheating risks, and that of inflation in particular. In addition, in many of the key surplus countries, there has been little progress in shifting from external to domestic demand. And in these economies, significant currency appreciation and/or structural reforms can help bring about the rebalancing needed to support growth that is sustainable, strong and stable. It is not happening fast enough. Now, the picture that I've painted, going from the advanced to the emerging economies, is clearly not a rosy one. But as I said, there are policy options to actually support the recovery. The key, however, and it's a difficult act. I've been in government, I know how complicated it is. The difficult act is that policymakers must have the conviction and understand and communicate the urgency of tackling today's challenges, while at the same time be nimble should circumstances change. That's a bit of a balancing act when it comes to governments. Now, I said at the beginning that it was time to act now. And I will, look at especially the advanced economies and identify both the fiscal and the monetary policies that can be taken. For the advanced economies, there is no question that fiscal sustainability must be restored through credible, implementable consolidation plans. But we also know, and I have said it